Hello and welcome to my Module 5 reflection video. The first thing that we had touched on was the Sustainability's Crash Course Geography video. Within this, kind of the emphasis on focusing on the people within a city as they're kind of what defines it was interesting to me. I feel like at times with architecture and building, planning, it can kind of become exact or technical. And within this, the acknowledgement of what the building is for and who will be utilizing it can be lost sometimes. And then additionally, the concept of retrofitting was really interesting to me, as I feel like it kind of captured and touched on the ideas that we have been covering throughout this course regarding future city development. And it touches on kind of that importance of researching and understanding like past or prior patterns and experiences, and then utilizing that newfound and gained knowledge to more efficiently move forward. The next section was the guest lecture, which was Biophilic Cities by Tim Beatley and Carla Jones-Harrell. The section on Edmonton's ecological network was really interesting and personal to me, because I had done a past project for my prior summer course to this, which was land use and environment, in which I had to kind of plan the construction of a wildlife crossing or bridge within Northern California. And then also we analyzed some like parks and buildings and public spaces within Pittsburgh. And a lot of these modules and like concepts were very similar to what they were talking about within this lecture. And then also the same course kind of talked on the importance of monitoring wildlife patterns and implementing that data and knowledge from into planning, which connected to Tim Beatley's talks on like a bird focused cities. Also Carla Jones-Harrell's section on nature as an intervention, and more specifically that 20-minute city section was really interesting to me, as I hadn't heard of the concept, and it kind of aided in addressing a lot of the concerns that we see when overviewing our current city structures and the drawbacks that we hope to improve on. And then finally, Tim Beatley's section, in which he touched on the main drawbacks. He mentions a lack of imagination as kind of one of those main issues. And it interested me as it's an idea that kind of I've touched on in prior modules, or we've touched on, specifically when you view that World Fair video, as it kind of displayed that deficit of imagination or hope that we have today in comparison to the past. The next reading was Chapter 8, Energy, from In the City of Tomorrow, Sensors, Network, Hackers, and the Future of Urban Life. This was both interesting and relevant to me, as I kind of wandered and research on the AC and heat optimization to reduce costs when I'm at school at my apartment. Because I feel like between me and my roommate kind of being out during classes and other events, you're not really there through the day, and you kind of wonder how much energy you're burning. And then that idea of global energy grid that was produced by Buckminster Fuller was really interesting to me, as it was kind of a concept that I had never heard of or thought of before. And I kind of wondered maybe this was kind of due to that lack of collaboration globally that we've seen on issues or concerns that are like much more important. And it kind of begs that question of what would a system that could operate like that, like would it be possible? And if so, what would it look like if the countries were able to collaborate? The next section was AI and the energy required to power it to fuel new climate change concerns. Kind of with my oppositional opinion on AI and generative AI usage. It overviewed a lot of the info that I had kind of previously researched and looked into, especially in connection to my past sustained research project that I'd done regarding generative AI, and it connected on some projects that I'd worked on recently. And then another idea to note was the water concerns regarding AI. And even with my oppositional perspective, I feel like it's still kind of important to note other sources that are utilizing such high amounts of water. A couple to know are like Nestle, and then the meat industry. But a big thing to know with that is that those are kind of established companies and systems. So it's crucial to understand that with AI, this is kind of just the beginning, and that water usage is concerning. Next was Reinventing Farming and Food Post-Globalization. This video kind of displayed a common theme that aided in showing that national issue that impacts a broad range of functions, which was optimization, economic gain over resiliency, and kind of diversity or power division. I feel like it was interesting to see how the same issues that are impacting our cities and potential future cities are also affecting our farmers in USDA's policymaking. Then the section which follows Molly Jans and her genetic mutation within the plants had interested me, as it kind of shifts like a natural process of like gardening and growing food, and gives it a more technical and scientific approach. And then it kind of just also counters that overuse of chemicals in large-scale farming, which I thought was interesting. The next section was 12 Migrants Sharing a Queen's Apartment by the New Yorker. I thought an interesting idea within this article was the connection and division that was present within those migration communities that they'd spoke on. How there's kind of that level of connection through that seeking of work, and like a mutual strive for the opportunity to succeed and kind of create a new life. But the competition that's created through this, alongside those stereotypes that the groups held for each other, they're kind of like slowly divided. So I think that was a cool dynamic. And then where on earth will people live in the future? This video was interesting as it connected to the last one and kind of showed that the different migration patterns across the world, but specifically showed that like South American and North American migration that was talked about in the article. And then another idea that was interesting was the drawing of a connection between that young population right now and immigration, and the role in which a high immigrant base is kind of replacing that declining population and workers due to the habits of our younger generations. The next section, good fences make good neighbors. This is interesting and kind of beautiful to see how, like, not only did he design those pieces in his placement of them, but that kind of dispersal of them throughout the city, as it displayed the diverse backgrounds that exist kind of across the city in those little communities, and how those simplistic pieces kind of display that presence that many of these immigrant communities play for the local economies and cultures, and how those impacts kind of aren't noticed to the extent that they should be. Then the last couple additional materials I used was Saudi Arabia's race to build a $22 billion railway in the desert. I selected this as it reminded me of a different Saudi Arabian project, which was called The Line, in which they kind of hope to create a new urban future with like an inner desert, high-scaling linear city. But I believe, upon research, that this project was eventually suspended temporarily, and then like any potential construction efforts would occur post 2030, which is a lot late on that original timeline. And due to this, kind of that railway project described within the video was hard to imagine being completed with their similarities. And then finally, Liam Young's planetary design, The Great Endeavor. That Great Endeavor and the simulated images that were displayed throughout the video reminded me of an idea that we had touched on in, I think, one of the first two modules, regarding the importance of imagination and sci-fi and fiction within future planning. And kind of when watching it, looked like one was watching like a futuristic or fictitious reality, like similar to Star Wars, with those carbon capture technology that was being displayed. But it kind of helps us wonder that, like, without this strive to create something large and planet changing, or without those fictitious sources that can kind of give us some hope or provide us some guidance on how the future could look, will these future changes ever really be generated or worked on? So, yeah.